first and foremost, we're not a coaching firm. We coach businesses, and there are ways that we do that. But the goal is to ultimately either acquire companies or partner with companies that have a network where we can teach them how to do it our way, and then we acquire companies in their network.
Welcome to Boys Under the Hood. I'm Pat Kelly, joined by James Stephenson. This podcast made possible by Lotus Business Solutions. I'm glad you can make it today. I got here a little bit early into your garage studio.
So people are always like, I think that's one of the questions we get. They're like, you're in your garage?
Right. Yeah, but this is one of the things to know about James. He's very meticulous about timing, right? If you have an 8 o'clock appointment, you better be there at 8 o'clock. And don't show up at 8:03 and be like, oh man, I'm sorry I had that, because he's like, all right, man, now you have 12 minutes of my time with you, right? But so one of the things that I noticed, and you can see, no, it's true, it's so true. But that was one of the lessons that you learned early on. Let's speak to that first before we even go any further. Yeah. How did you become that person?
So just be punctual?
Just be very punctual, and you got to be there when the meeting is starting.
I don't think anybody's ever asked me. A million questions that I get asked all the time. I have no idea. I don't know. It's like our oldest daughter. She's the same way. She'll freak out if you're like, she understands how long it's going to take to get. You gotta go.
No, and that's one of the things that I've noticed when people say, like, you'll be somewhere and waiting for someone, and they'll be like, I'll be there in 5 minutes, and right away I translate that to, okay, that really means 10 to 15 minutes, because people, they really don't have it. And of course, in the business I'm in radio, I live in 60-second increments. So if you say 5 minutes, I know exactly how long that is. Yeah. I probably could just, you start the clock and I'll tell you when to stop it. I bet I can get within 5 seconds of 5 minutes.
If you are not 10 minutes early, you're late in my world. You know how that is. You know what I mean? If I say, I'm like, all right, Pat, we got to have this call tomorrow or something. I'll call you at 8 o'clock. I call you at 8 o'clock. I'm the beat.
So we spent a lot of our time here helping businesses that have challenges in different aspects of it. But there was a time when you did as well, and you had a business coach who was very meticulous about, you need to be on this call at this time. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, dude. So that's a great question. So I coaching in general is something that, I think that we should talk a little bit more about, because, as we're getting more visual online with what we do, right? So like the, Lotus PE was built to this point with just handshakes, right? Going out, shaking 10,000 hands, and people are like, hey, James, I need help with this or that or the other. And that's how we've gotten to where we are now, whether we are partnering with a company, working with a company, or acquiring a company. In any event, we've gotten there this way. So now, we're finding that, you have to be very involved in social media to really, get the word out. And so years and years ago, we didn't have that. And, how I got my start was as an auto mechanic. I was really, really good at working on cars, and I wanted to open my own shop because I thought that the dealerships that I had worked for really treated the people terribly. I mean, just absolutely terribly. And I think they still do to a certain degree, not all, places, but, the ones that I had worked for. So in any event, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take my skills. I'm going to, do this for myself. I'm going to figure out a better way. And so as I started to do that, I was a miserable failure. I could work on cars and I didn't have a problem getting work in the door, but like I had no ability to manage money. I didn't know how to manage money. I didn't know how to manage profitability of my time. I was wasting so much time. It was a disaster. And so what I did was I was like, all right, man, I need to make a conscious decision, right? Like, what do I want to do next with this? Where do I want to go, right? And this is why we focus on our whys and our goals and everything with our clients when we first start. So, I was like, where do I want to go with this? Like, what motivates me? At the time, I didn't have kids or anything, and I think at the time what motivated me, I was like, well, I want to be rich one day, right? And I want to go invest money and get private jets and do all this crazy stuff, stupid stuff that you want to do when you're 20.
Of course, yeah. I want a limo with a hot tub in the back like Motley Crue.
Yeah. I was talking about a kid the other day, young kid producer, man. We were out in Long Island, and he's like, yeah, man, I want to buy a Porsche GT3. And I'm like, yeah, when I was 22, I wanted that too. Now I want to buy a Prius. Right. So I mean, it changes things.
But so early on,
coaching.
So you had a coach that you signed up with, and to help you kind of have some focus on what you were doing. but he was very particular about the kind of person that he wanted to work with.
Yeah. I found the best possible person in the automotive repair industry, at that time. He's since, retired now. So I did any research I could, and this was before social media, and I did any research that I could, and I found this guy. His name was Bob Cooper. Bob Cooper is probably one of the most charismatic men, just such a nice man I've probably ever met in my life. And you could sit down. I remember I was at a class one time, and he was presenting just a basic story. And not that I was like watching my watch, but I was conscious of the time. And this guy spoke for an hour and a half. I don't think anybody in the room blinked, coughed, sneezed, nothing. Everybody was just glued on this guy. I've never seen, anybody that was, could present like that. He since sold his company. And so, I ended up getting, working with them. And then, years later, I became a coach for them. And then since I've gone off on my own, the company changed hands. If I showed up a minute late to a meeting.
Oh, you told me about that one time you had a phone call with him,
and you got on the not Cooper. So Cooper ended up being my boss, and he was the owner of that company. And I had a guy named Kevin that was my my mentor.
What was your nemesis at first?
Oh no, he's a brilliant guy, very smart guy. He was a multi-shop owner. He kind of started how I did. He was a tech and then worked his way up, and he owned a bunch of other shops. I mean, brilliant man, incredible at what he does. But yeah, I mean, he drew a hard line very early on. And I understand now, after having, a bunch of different clients and companies that we own, that I understand it. But at the time I was like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? I'd get on the phone, because we didn't have Zoom then, everything was on the phone. And so I'd get on the phone and he'd be like, all right, James, so, did you do this, that, and the other? And I'd be like, well, I did this and that, but, I couldn't get to the other. I'm having trouble, going through. And he'd be like, well, this is not how business works. You have these tasks and you have to complete these tasks, and as the years went on, you would see where he would draw that hard line and where he would be like, all right, I understand, there's concession. I understand why you couldn't complete this marketing task or this other thing or, whatever. But, I learned quite a bit from him, from Cooper, from all of these guys that, I believe, Joe and Kevin are still doing it, but Cooper retired, I believe the beginning of last year, and that was when I went off on my own.
You're watching the Boys Under the Hood podcast. James Stephenson, owner of Lotus Business Solutions.
Yeah.
I'm Pat Kelly. Award-winning radio host here in Springfield. That's a true story. No, you are. The Massachusetts Broadcast Association. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. That was for production. So we've talked here dozens of times about building businesses, and to different extents. Sometimes, you look at how a business operates, and it just needs a tweak.
Yeah.
Maybe their systems are just a little bit off. Maybe they need to design new systems and have new policies. But when I came in here, and we're going to take a picture of this and add it to the podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Because I want you to see this. You have disassembled the entire engine of this Targa. It's on the table behind us.
Yeah.
You'll see the pic.
Yeah.
And my first thought was...
Anally labeled a tag with every little piece.
My first thought was, because I got here early, I'm like, I'm going to fuck with James and start moving some of these screws around. No, I didn't. No, but I stopped. I laughed because because I saw how you have the parts and you've got the screws and the nuts that go with each one.
Yeah.
But then my second thought was, if you told me that I could have this car and you left me in this garage with all the tools I needed to put it back together, I'd be like, fuck it, I don't want that. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
But when I looked at it, I kind of saw it as a metaphor for a lot of the businesses that we've done business with in the past. And sometimes when you want something to run the way you want it to run, you got to completely disassemble it.
Yeah.
And then put it back together. Are you finding issues, even as you do this, that you need to address with the engine to make it work perfectly?
Yeah, I mean, this car's a 71. And so, there were leaks and squeaks. And so, we're not, our bodies aren't perfect anymore, after a certain while. We got leaks and squeaks and all that stuff now too, And so this engine, as you're pulling it apart, it's like, it's layers. It's a great assembly would be a business. You take everything apart piece by piece and you examine every single piece and we have a blueprint for what works on how to put them back together and how to get them running more efficiently and smoothly. And so whether we're putting it back together and it's stock, or whether we're putting it back together, we're adding extra options, so extra services, other businesses that we bolt on. I think that the big thing that is going to be a challenge for us this year is to clearly articulate what we do. And we are not a coaching firm. Like, first and foremost, we're not a coaching firm. We coach businesses, and there are ways that we do that, but the goal is to ultimately either acquire companies or partner with companies that have a network where we can teach them how to do it our way, and then we acquire companies in their network. I'm not interested at this stage in my life at coaching businesses, and the reason being is that I'm just too good at it. Like, right. I've been doing it for so long, and we have had such incredible success that I just don't, like, that's just not what I want to do. We're just not a coaching firm.
So that's just a natural progression. Yeah, a natural progression of Lotus Business Solutions, right?
Yeah,
it kind of started as coaching, but then it's like, wait a minute, I'm putting a lot of time into this. Let's partner on this. Yeah, let's partner on this to make the business work. You, by the way, can learn more about Lotus Business Solutions at lotuspe.us.
I think with all these companies we buy, we could afford some better mic stands, but I think that's part of the thing.
Well, this is what I said. This is what I get first.
Like, so me, dude. It's so me.
This is what I said for putting you in charge of buying the mic stands. James is like, yeah, I'm going to get the some mic stands.
What are these, like $400, $500 microphones with 10-cent microphone stands?
So I'm in the radio business. I know this stuff.
Yeah.
And rather than be like, hey man, what kind of mic stands should we get? James is like, oh, I went on Amazon last night, got us some mic stands.
He showed up real quick.
Oh, and we came the next day. That was the bonus, right? I don't know if the business that would have used the thing, but I just thought that was kind of a good metaphor for what.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And what we do here.
It really is. It really is. Take it apart piece by piece, and you have a manual that tells you kind of how to put it all back together. And there's a lot of parts over there, but for me, like, I am comfortable and I'm almost like thoughtless moving through that. Like, I could do it essentially with my eyes closed. It's fun. It's relaxing. Like, this area in general is, so I have, my house is right there with an attached garage, and then I have a detached garage. Everybody calls this like, daddy's garage.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so upstairs we have a space, and then, I keep my office here. I have my gym here, and then I work on cars. And so the goal for me is to stay, your headspace is very, very important. That's why at Lotus, we even have somebody on staff that all she does is like coach any of our partners or whatever. If they're going through some type of an issue, they're not quite motivated anymore. She talks to them, she kind of gets them moving. For me, it's exercise or taking my mind off of things. And so I have to have other activities within the space. Otherwise, your mind begins to kind of wander, no matter how many like lists and things. So if I'm feeling anxious, or if I have a bad meeting or something like that, which aren't many bad meetings, that's it. I just move to the next. I just start working out.
All right,
so working on the car.
I want to start the next podcast with how you exercise, because that's something else. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for joining us today for Boys Under the Hood. Learn more in lotuspe.us. We'd be happy to help you.